How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. It is Eric Erickson across the United States. Glad to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, you can text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. If you want the show notes, the live stream, the podcast, all that sort of stuff, you can get a great rate on the paid subscription version of the show notes, which, by the way, should be in your inbox now. They got sent out a little bit late because the website, the server crashed, but apparently the email server went flaky, so there were issues there. I want to talk to you about the algorithm. Let me just say first, what do I mean by the algorithm? Social media websites, when they began, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, they began with a chronological order. So you would go into your favorite social media site, and I'm going to use Instagram as mine because Instagram is my favorite social media site. It's where I find the funny stuff. I don't like using TikTok. We have TikTok. We put up clips of the show, and otherwise I don't use it. I don't want to participate in a Chinese communist surveillance site, which is what TikTok is. If you want a sense of just how connected to the Chinese Communist Party and military of China TikTok is, the president and his team are negotiating directly with the president of China over the sale of TikTok. If TikTok were the independent company that everyone claims it is, our president and secretary of Treasury would not have to negotiate with Xi Jinping, the president of China, to deal with TikTok. But that they're having to shows you TikTok is a military tool of the Chinese Communist Party. I don't like to use it. Instagram is my favorite. I don't use Facebook a lot. I use Instagram a lot. I love Instagram. I'm on Instagram more than Twitter. Instagram makes me happy because my algorithm is dialed in and I see all sorts of great, funny clips on Instagram. But it's the algorithm. The thing that aggravates me more than anything else about Instagram is that when I flip through, I might see a picture at the top and then it updates and all of a sudden can't see that picture anymore. It's like, wait a second, I was trying to look at that picture. But nope, it's gone because now what Instagram does is it doesn't show me a chronology. That is, it doesn't show me the picture posted 5 minutes ago, then 6 minutes ago, then 7 minutes ago, then 10 minutes ago, then 30 minutes ago, then an hour ago. It shows me an algorithmically generated, non-chronological feed of what it thinks I'm going to like the most. Twitter is in large part that way as well now. Twitter, or X as some call it, I refuse to call it that. When you get into Twitter, in fact, I'll do it right now. So I go to my Twitter feed, and the default tab is For You. The For You tab. And the For You tab shows me things that Twitter thinks I want to see. Many of those people I'm not even following. I have no interest in. Some of it can be anti-Semitic. Some of it can be, for some people, pornographic, depending on who they are and the people they follow on Twitter and what their default settings are. But it's not people they follow. Now, let me give you my timeline here. This is you can choose For You or you can choose following. My default is following. I only want to see the people that I actually like to follow. Unfortunately, sometimes Twitter, without me realizing it, defaults to For You, and oftentimes it's people I follow and then others as well. But let me just give you the timeline here. Now, I've been talking, so I'm going to refresh one more time. So these are the posts that I see in my feed. There's a retweet from 4 hours ago, a retweet from 10 minutes ago, a post from an hour ago, then 51 minutes ago, then 15 seconds ago, then a post from 20 seconds ago, 25 seconds ago, 3 hours ago, 7 minutes ago, 35 seconds ago, 3 hours ago, 47 seconds ago, 1 hour ago, 39 minutes ago, 59 seconds ago, 57 seconds ago, 1 minute ago, 1 minute ago, 7 minutes ago, 8 minutes ago, 27 minutes ago. Then from September 13th. Now, oftentimes, in fairness, what it is the way it's ordered is a retweet, someone replying, and so it shows the full length. So it's more chronological if you do the following, but it's still not chronological. What Twitter does, what Facebook does, Facebook probably more notorious than most, and TikTok, is it shows you what the algorithm, its computer-generated code, has decided is going to entice you to stay longer at the site. Someone I know who will go nameless oftentimes stays up far later than they intend to stay, and I'm not talking about myself. Staring at reels on Instagram. They lure you in. The reels do. I actually had to go through a time at Instagram, told friends about this, where I had to really get aggressive about my algorithm because it wasn't really showing me what I wanted to see. It was showing me what a number of friends were looking at, and that was the primary feed on Instagram, and it was somewhat inappropriate, stuff I didn't particularly care to see, and having to go through not interested. So I have my algorithm on Instagram perfectly tuned in now. If I go to Instagram, which I will do right now, and I click on the magnifying glass, see architecture, private jet, golf course, golf swing, food. There's a cookie, there's a cake, there's fried chicken, there's making spaghetti, there's a house, there's a private jet, there's a golf course, there's a triple layer cake, there's a piece of, what is he doing with that filet? A nice cutting board too. Knives, cooking knives, chef's knives, pots and pans, more architecture, more private jet, brownie, chocolate chip loaf, focaccia. I'm dialed in. I got cooking, I got private planes, I got architecture, and I got golf. One day the show's going to be so successful I can fly private and have my buddy Vince build the house I want to have built by the architecture firm I want to have built, and then go play golf after the show. I've got my algorithm dialed in. I have a buddy of mine in Nashville, Tennessee. I thought he was kidding until he showed me the screenshot. His algorithm is dialed in so good on Instagram, his entire feed is pugs. But also, again, what it is the internet showing us what it thinks we like. I've trained my algorithm to think that I like golf and cooking and architecture and planes. And I do. But if I go to Instagram right now and I go to the main page, what am I going to see? I'm going to see pieces that it thinks I want to see. There's a piece from a day ago. There's one from 5 hours ago, then 12 minutes ago, then 5 hours ago, then 5 hours ago, then a day ago, then 21 hours ago. I don't see a chronological feed. It's the algorithm deciding it wants to show me a certain order of things that it thinks are going to keep me on the website. And what's happening is people are staying on the websites, and they're staying online, and they're not meeting their neighbors. They're not going to church. They're not going to political rallies offline. They're staying online, and they're isolating themselves because of the algorithm. And on sites like TikTok, the algorithms are designed to radicalize the youth. Tyler Robinson got radicalized on social media. He got radicalized to the left. There are those who get radicalized on the right as well. You should know it. I have a friend of mine, a parent who loves his son, who has become a bitter racist because he stayed online and the parents weren't paying attention. And he went down certain rabbit holes and has become this white nationalist kid, and they're trying to work him out of it. Now, I hesitate to say this because I don't want people to take it the wrong way. But my My son has a very funny sense of humor, and there is no inappropriate joke. In fact, my son believes that some jokes should be told that might be offensive because it's a joke. And he's a very big defender of telling jokes. And he's told jokes that some of you would find deeply inappropriate. And I laugh at many of the jokes because they're very funny, and they're deeply inappropriate jokes. He's also a film buff. He loves to watch movies, not just for the movie, but for the cinematography and the scenes. He will study frames. He wants to be an architect, but he's starting to realize that cinematography is a form of architecture. Building the scene, the lighting, where people stand, how they look, how they're dressed, what they say. It's a form of architecture. He's starting to put these things together as a 16-year-old. One of the movies he's wanted to watch now since he was 13, he's 16 now, he's wanted to watch it since he was 13 years old, is Schindler's List. Because he's a Steven Spielberg fan. And he's heard me talk about this movie. My son says a lot of jokes about a lot of things and a lot of topics. I haven't heard a single joke about the Holocaust since he watched Schindler's List. It made it real. There's the scene of a girl who is yelling, "Goodbye, Jews! Goodbye, Jews!" She's cheering on their departure to Auschwitz. It left a real impression on him. So much so that he emailed his principal and says he thinks that the senior class, every senior class should have to watch that movie so that people realize that this is real history. These were real people, and people behave that way to other people. But you know what? You get on your TikTok algorithm, and if you set up a new account and you set it up on a brand new phone and it's not tied to your cell phone, it's not tied to your account, so China doesn't know it's you, it's fresh bait, and you say you're 18 years old, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see a lot of anti-Semitic content. You're going to see a lot of normalizing transgender content. And as you start clicking on this, it's going to feed you more and more. And you're going to go down that rabbit hole because of the algorithm. Because the algorithm knows you're fresh meat. And if it thinks you're young, it's going to start slowly on TikTok in particular indoctrinating you into anti-Semitism and transgenderism. And you know, on Twitter, you start a new account on Twitter. On Twitter, you're going to start seeing a lot of white nationalist, seemingly sympathetic stuff. The algorithm is trying to reprogram your brain. And the more you stay down those rabbit holes, the more and more you're going to be indoctrinated. I heard the other night somebody on TV saying, so there's a thing called Section 230, and Section 230 protects social media companies from being sued for the stuff other people say. And it's actually a good thing. I don't want to be sued because someone comes to my website in the middle of the night and puts up a slanderous comment. It's not my comment. I don't stand by it. I didn't even see it, so why should I be sued? It protects social media companies. It protects companies with comment sections, and it's a good thing. I think Section 230 is a good thing. But I saw someone on Friday, I think it was on CNN, say we should keep Section 230, but maybe we should not apply it to content that is algorithmically elevated. That may be a very good compromise. So if our social media companies intend to continue to control us by the algorithm, and they elevate something so it gets a lot of eyeballs, like on some social media sites, the assassination of Charlie Kirk gets a lot of eyeballs because the algorithm puts it there, they should be open to lawsuit for algorithmically elevating content. I think that's a good compromise. Now, someone can argue with me and change my mind, perhaps. I'm a big advocate of keeping Section 230, but I'm increasingly concerned that we're all being held hostage to algorithms that are shaping all of our thinking in subtle ways that you and I may not even know. And if we're not going to unplug from online, and by the way, I think all of us, myself included, need to spend less time online, we should hold the social media companies responsible for the content they're pushing into the algorithm to get us to stick around and pollute our brains. We're all being held hostage to an algorithm, whether we know it or not. And one of the best things we can do is disincentivize the social media companies from being as aggressive as they are with the algorithm. Look, I've given up on trying to tell people how to live their lives, but we can certainly tell the social media companies they need to stop indoctrinating us through the social media algorithm. All righty, let's get to the phones. I have kept people on hold for quite a while. Let me begin with, we got people who've been waiting for quite a while. Let me begin with Sarah here. Sarah, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Eric, I'm you.
Great. What's going on?
So, I got a combat for you on the wedding. Planning for.
Sarah, we're losing your connection. Okay. Sorry, Sarah. You cut out on us. See if you can call back. We got a line or two open if you can, if you get to a better connection. Okay, when we come back, I want to be able to take Mike's call from Oklahoma and Susan and others as well who are on hold. The phone number is 404-872-0750. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, if you text Eric to 33777 to get the show notes. Leland Vittert, my buddy, I'm on his News Nation program quite a bit. He's got a new book coming out. I mentioned it. He's got an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend about the quest to find the cause of autism. He is autistic, mildly so. He's definitely on the spectrum. His book is about his life with autism and his dad. And he totally supports RFK trying to find the cause of autism. I do too. I think it's been pretty thoroughly debunked that it is tied to the vaccines, but there's got to be a cause. And actually, there has been speculation that RFK is now advancing from Health and Human Services that it might be a folate deficiency and possibly tied to the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy. I would be very interested in the research. The reason I don't think it's vaccines is because we can see that as vaccines have gone up in coverage, we're not seeing a corresponding statistically significant tracking of autism to the vaccines, but surely there's a cause out there. Now, I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank, my bank. They would love to be your bank. OldGloryBank.com. I actually had another pleasant experience this weekend depositing cash. One of the main reasons I decided to go to Old Glory Bank, besides it was a bank by conservatives, started by conservatives for conservatives, Old Glory Bank has been able to figure out how you can deposit cash, even though they're an online bank. I had a very prominent major online bank that I was using, and I couldn't deposit cash, which wasn't good for me. And Old Glory Bank figured it out. They're by conservatives. They're for conservatives. They're tied into wanting you to be able to bank without for fear of the debanking trends in the country. You can go to oldglorybank.com/Eric today and get an account with them. I have a no-fee checking and a no-fee savings account with them. They are good people. oldglorybank.com/Eric. And they're one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing banks in the country. And you can do business with them in all 50 states. oldglorybank.com/Eric. Your business can also get a business account with them. They are FDIC insured. They're an equal housing lender, and terms and conditions apply. oldglorybank.com/Eric. All right, welcome back. We've got Sarah back. Before I hop back to Sarah's call, though, I want to take Mike in Tulsa. He's been waiting an extraordinarily long time, being patient with me. Mike, thanks for being patient. How are you? Mike waited so long that the call's still there and his phone is probably dead. So let me go back to Sarah now. Welcome, Sarah. How are you?
Hey, Eric, I'm good. How about you?
Great. Thanks for calling back.
Yeah, so I just got engaged. My fiance proposed on August 9th, and then Sunday morning on August 10th, he flew out to Camp Pendleton. He is a sergeant in the Marine Corps. And him and I are starting wedding planning, and I just found a wedding venue up in Hiawassee. It's gorgeous. It's a brand new venue. It's veteran-owned and everything.
Nice.
My dad made a big point to say about Marco Rubio's comment about asking President Trump about making an executive order banning weddings
during
the
football
college season.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So I have a comeback. We have 4 or 5 flat screen TVs at the venue. So I've got football covered, and I got my dad happy.
That's fantastic. So, by the way, getting married in Georgia, if you want to limit the cost of the wedding and the number of attendees, you get the Georgia football home schedule. And if they're in Athens that weekend, you have your wedding that weekend, and you don't have to worry about a massive number of people coming and tying up the wedding budget.
I'll have to look into that.
Listen, when my wife and I got married 25 years ago this October, we were given the football schedule for the University of Georgia and told don't have it during a home game. And so we planned around the Georgia football schedule. Now, I've got a buddy of mine who basically had the same thing happen. He's a Tennessee fan, so he made sure to have his wedding when Georgia was playing at a home game to limit the number of Georgia fans who would be at his wedding.
That's great.
Yes.
I am picking him up at Hartsfield-Jackson on Thursday from Camp Pendleton, so he's flying back this Thursday. He's been gone since he proposed.
God bless him. God bless him for serving, and for you for putting up with a Marine.
There's the good days and the bad days.
Yes, there are. Well, listen, blessings and prayers for both of you in your wedding, and to your poor father who doesn't want you married during college football game. Can't really blame him. Y'all, I got to say, after last week, I spent a lot of time watching football this weekend, and I was so glad I did. There is a restaurant near my family. I have been asked by some of you and by many of those who work with me to stop giving the names of places that my family and I go, given security concerns. So I will just say this is a hole-in-the-wall barbecue restaurant. To give you a sense of how hole-in-the-wall it is literally a cinder block restaurant, and the roof is held up with cedar posts. It is hole-in-the-wall, and you have your choice. Sit inside at one of 5 tables, or sit outside where there are roosters walking around. Your choice. It's phenomenal barbecue. They had one old TV in this restaurant, and my wife and kids decided if we go in the third quarter of the Georgia-Tennessee game, no one's going to be there. It'll just be us. I was like, okay, fine, I'll go. I can watch it on my phone. So we went. We were so wrong. They were wrong. I kind of thought it too, though. There were a pile of people inside that restaurant. That game was so close. They were piled up, everybody staring at that one TV. And I realized something. They had cable TV. But my Apple Sports app on my iPhone was ahead of what was being broadcast on the TV. So for those of you who didn't watch this game, because many of you're not in the SEC and you don't know what good football is, this game was extraordinarily close at the end. It wound up being tied at the end. And Tennessee had the opportunity in the last 3 seconds of the game to get a field goal. And I knew before anyone else did in that whole restaurant that this game had gone into overtime because they were on the 20-yard line and missed the field goal. And went into overtime. The poor kicker managed to make a field goal in overtime, but then Georgia scored a touchdown and won the game. And I knew all of this was, I was watching it on my phone. I wasn't even watching the video. I was watching the actual Georgia Sports app or the Apple Sports app as this game advanced. And everybody I was cheering, and people were like, "What are you cheering about?" They haven't even. It was like, you're about to see something. They thought I was a prophet. I could see the future. And all I was doing was staring at my phone. Now think about sports betting. Because that's where my mind went to. Think about the poor fools who are watching this game. This guy's about to kick a field goal, so they get into the local sports betting app to say the guy's going to make it and win the game. There are 3 seconds left. He's on the 20-yard line. They're going to win the game. Little do they know that they're watching a delayed feed and they've lost money. We're going to have to think about these sorts of things. And then I went home and I watched the LSU game, Go Tigers, against that team that will go, nameless down in Florida. God bless them. They're not having a great season. They need to bring Tebow back. Susan, you're going to be the next caller. Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you for calling.
I'm calling because I have a son that was actually 50 feet away from the tent where Charlie Kirk was shot.
Oh, man.
He's a student at UVU. He just went back to school today. But he spent the weekend here at home in Georgia. My husband flew him home so that he could be with us and we could check on him. And he watched football all weekend with his siblings.
Good.
But I just wanted you to kind of know how some of these kids are dealing with all of this, because he saw it up so close. He came to the rally 45 minutes before it began, so he could be close. He saw Charlie Kirk's wife and children right there next to the tent. He unfortunately saw something that a mother wishes, her child had never seen. And I called, he called me. I was at work and he called me and I answered the phone. He says, "Mom, I just want you to know I'm okay." He was running. He was out of breath. He says, "But Charlie Kirk has just been killed." And I said, "I don't even know who that is." He goes, "Mother, turn on the news." And I'm just now catching up on everything that Charlie Kirk stood for and going, "Oh, what a great guy. We lost an amazing person." And I'm so glad, that my child enjoyed listening to the things he had to say. He was very effective with these young people. But those kids at UVU, I know, because I know a lot of them, they spent the last few days in prayer, going to church with their families. We are Latter-day Saints. There's temples all over the place in Utah there. And I advised my son, don't turn on social media, don't go on there. It's not good for your psyche, but turn it all off and just go sit in the temple and pray and open up the scriptures and, connect yourself with God right now, not what's going on social media. And these kids are doing okay. He was home this weekend and he was just, resting with his brothers and having a great time and laughing and eating. And
good.
It just gives me hope for this generation, that we have good youth out there. We really do. They're strong kids. I do think we need to stop saying the word gun violence. It makes me so mad whenever I hear that, because a gun is an inanimate object. It can do nothing. This is wicked people violence. There is no such thing as gun violence. This is people violence.
Amen. So, Susan, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Why did your son choose to go all the way out from where you are to Utah to go to school? Because I'll be honest with you, I had not heard of the campus until what happened last week.
Well, great question. My husband and I are both graduates of Brigham Young University. My two older children are graduates of Brigham Young University, and they're out there. And I think he wanted to be near family, but BYU is extremely hard to get into. You have to be very cream of the crop. And though his grades were great and they weren't 4.0 and so he also wanted to major in aviation management, which is something not offered at BYU. But I love that he's out there. He's close to his siblings. He's close to family. And my husband works for an airline, so we can transport him back and forth as much as he wants. Also, it's about the environment. He actually served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and was called to all places, Orem, Utah. So he was familiar. I know. We're like, wait, what? But it's interesting, who we met and the people he got to work with. But part of it is when you're a Latter-day Saint, it's kind of like, the Catholics wanting to send their kids to Notre Dame or something like that. We just like to have our kids at places where they can get a little religious training and be amongst people that are like themselves.
I totally get that. And it's also like I get a little jealous, too, because it is one of the most beautiful states in the Union for people who haven't been out there. I mean, you got desert, you got mountains, you got snow, you've got lakes beyond the Great Lakes. It's a gorgeous state.
It really is. And I always have a good hair day there. Weather is very nice.
Although, so I had to give a speech out in Salt Lake last year. I didn't know this was a thing, that like the dust comes in and it's like a fog in the city, the smoggy air that just lingers around Salt Lake for days on end. That happened when I was out there. It's like you couldn't see the temple or the downtown from the airport. It was, I had no idea it was a thing. And my driver taking me to a speech says, yep, this happens like once a year. It'll happen for several days and you won't be able to see anything. And it's like smoggy, smoky fog.
Well, I have to say, if people want to go out, the best time will be end of next year. They have been shoring up that Salt Lake City temple and Temple Square, so it's earthquake proof and all of that. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to reopen at the end of next year, and the public can tour it. And it's, it took 40 years to build, from I think 1856 to 1896. Wow. And so I think it will be a very visited spot next year. But I feel like telling people, those people in Utah, those, who are largely members of my faith, they are handling this so well. They are, I think Mr. Cox was absolutely correct. This is not representative of Utah. Mm-hmm. This was a bad apple, and every group has a bad apple. As soon as it happened, my husband said, oh, I hope he was not a Latter-day Saint. Please, 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 because he didn't want it to reflect badly on the church. And I've heard rumors that, he was maybe raised LDS, but departed from the faith or whatever. But it's not representative of everyone, and every group has a few bad apples.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much for calling in, and my best to your son as well. What a thing to be as close to that as he was. Also, small world. I want to just Susan's last point there. There are bad apples. I mean, we all like sheep have gone astray is a famous line in Scripture, and I am very bothered by both the American press corps and the political left, all of whom run in the same circles, trying to somehow both sides what happened, because I'm willing to acknowledge that both sides have bad actors. Unfortunately, too many progressives are not willing to acknowledge that their side is capable of doing what happened, even though their side is the one that has embraced this ideological idea that words are violence. Now, notice, words are not violent. Words are violence. There can be violent words, but words themselves are not violence. And the left has embraced the idea that words can be violence, and so thus you can respond to those words defensively with violence, which you can see polluting the mind of someone. And then to see so many of them taking quotes from Charlie Kirk out of context, where he was rebutting position, stating the position to rebut it. It's been wild to see this perverse virtue signaling on the left, that they have no one on their side capable of doing what happened. And yet they do, and they did. And now, by the way, we are learning more and more that it appears other people had foreknowledge of what happened and chose not to do anything to stop it from happening. On a Discord server together, a group of, it appears to be trans rights activists, which will raise lots of questions, which I guarantee you will be memory holed by the press, because God forbid we examine that burgeoning bit of violence between the school shooting in Minnesota and now this. I'm in a conundrum, and I want to say this here at the end of the program. I believe in free speech and will defend your right to say whatever you want to say, but also I'm okay with people losing their jobs for cheering on a political assassination of another American. How do you reconcile those two? I'll just tell you how I do it. I think that we have been told for a number of years that your words have consequences. And I think you should be able to say whatever you want to say, and you should not be prohibited from saying what you want to say. But I also think that if you can't understand drawing the line at, I disagreed what he said, I didn't like him, I thought he was a bad influence, and you can't just stop there and you then take the next step, and so he got what he deserved, I have a problem with that, because no American deserves to be assassinated for their words. I don't know if Martin Luther King Jr. is the comparison, and I'm not trying to say Kirk was a like Martin Luther King Jr., but I do think that this is the first political assassination of a private citizen, prominent though he was, since MLK, who was not running for office or elected to office. We cross the Rubicon when Americans decide, because they hate someone on the other side of politics, that it is okay for that person to be assassinated for their political views. I have seen a lot of people on social media say, I didn't like Charlie Kirk. I didn't like what he stood for. Some people even quoting Stephen King, for example, things he was led to believe Charlie Kirk said that he never said. King, for his part, came out and apologized and said it turns out he didn't say that. A lot of people have been quoting things that Charlie Kirk never said, claiming he did, saying this is why I don't like him. He was a terrible person, what have you. People think I'm a terrible person. There's a difference, though, between thinking I hate this person because of their views, which I don't think you should hate them, but you dislike them at least, or you disagreed with them, and then taking the next step and saying, I'm okay with him being killed. You should not be okay with any American assassinated for political views. And there is a consequence, and there should be a consequence when Americans cheer on the murder of another American because of their political views. There has to be a consequence for that. And we're seeing professionals, teachers, academics in college, doctors and lawyers and others losing their jobs, even members of the military losing their jobs because they're cheering on an assassination. They should lose their jobs. I don't want any kid around the teacher who can't distinguish between I dislike the person but he shouldn't die. You need to take the he shouldn't be killed for his views. And if you can't realize that, well, then you don't need to be in polite society. You should be shunned by polite society for not realizing that. Americans for Prosperity has been advocating for common sense conservative solutions and decency in this country for quite a while. They would love to have you on board. They're asking you to take a step for freedom, and all of us should consider doing this in light of these events these last few weeks. You just take one step for freedom in your community. I take a step for freedom in mine. If 250,000 of us take one meaningful step for freedom, we'll have taken 250,000 steps for freedom in this country in time for the 250th birthday of the country. All you do is go to afpvolunteer.com. afpvolunteer.com. That's where you need to go. afpvolunteer.com. Sign up with Americans for Prosperity. Commit to just one step for freedom in your community. Join others around the country doing it as we improve our community. afpvolunteer.com.